Hi, this is Sapphire Kerner, and I'm making this video as an extra credit video. And in this video, I'll be talking about a comparison between the works and the ideas that Lorraine Hansberry, best well known as the playwright for Raising the Sun, had towards being Black nationalism and also feminism, and tying that into the Black Panther movie because this is for Black and Latinx people in film and TV. So I'm going to be talking about the Black Panther movie, and I'm also going to be talking about two articles. The first article is To Become Young, Gay, and Black, Lorraine Hansberry's Existentialist Routines, Routes to Anti-Colonialism. It's by Shara Higashida. And the second article I'll be talking about and comparing it to is Measure Him Right, Lorraine Hansberry and the Struggle for Peace. And that is by Robert Leinbersman. Okay. So, I was inspired to think of this because the Black Panther movie is a huge success and it's like an amazing movie. And I think that it ties really well to Raising the Sun and Lorraine Hansberry and these ideas of like Black nationalism and how the Black Panther movie was so popular here in America. And it really calls for this idea of return the African diaspora and returning to Africa and having this connection, even though we are Black Americans and we have our identity, that we have this global identity of Black nationalism, and why Lorraine Hansberry would have really liked the Black Panther movie, I think, um, going for off of her thoughts and her writings and things like that. So the so as a playwright, Raising the Sun is really interesting because she has elements of Black nationalism in it. So, for example, the character of Asagai, he is the only outsider in the family. He's also not from America. She did that in purpose because she was already starting at that age to explore like what the Black identity meant as part of the diaspora. So it's really interesting. Where it talks about one of the articles where a FBI agent came to see Raising the Sun, and it is an extremely political show, but oftentimes it's misread as a show that's just about family or it's just about like poverty struggles. It's not really seen as the real like protest play that it really is because people want to misread it that way. And the only thing that he thought was threatening or bad about Raising the Sun was the fact that there's this character of Asagai and this worry that like he would inspire like Asagai talking about how Black nationalism and talking about like ending of colonialism and stuff like that. They were worried that it would inspire blacks to start thinking about things in a global view. So I thought that was super interesting. Um, Lorraine Endray also wrote another play. It's called The Sign in Sidney Brewster's Window, and that talks about like race, mental health, queerness, and it's not an all-black cast. She also started a play called The Blacks, as a response to Les Blancs by Garnier, a French playwright, which is an absurdist playwright. And he wrote about race, but she felt like it didn't cover enough, and it wasn't really an in-depth understanding. She felt it was too safe. So Les Blancs was an anti so she's decided to make the Les Blancs as an anti-colonialist play about Africa, discussing her ideas about the struggle of blackness being universal, which is also ties to Assegai. So it ties to the Black Panther movie extremely well because it talks about like during the movie this idea of Wakanda and like staying like how Wakanda is safe and it's a safe place in Africa because colonialism hasn't touched it, and it's that kind of idea of what would Africa be like without colonialism, and this struggle inside of Africa or inside of Wakanda about being like, should we open our borders? Should we let people in? When we let them in, it'll cause war, it'll cause conflict, and like this idea of like wanting to keep like what they have safe because it is something that's very good. Um, but the idea that like it bounces back and forth between Wakanda and Oakland, which is historically a very like black area in California, especially after the Great Migration. So it shows this idea of T'Challa, who is this person who is like born in Wakanda, he's very Wakandan, and this idea of Killmonger of Eric, who is this person who is a black, he is actually more of a black nationalist than T'Challa, and he kind of teaches him that like just because you are Wakandan, it doesn't mean that you have to or can ignore the struggle of other black people like across the globe. It's still your responsibility to reach out to these people. So I think that that's really interesting. Where like Killmonger was the one coming in who was a black nationalist, even though he was violent and he did kill other black people in the movie. It was really ended up opening up the borders to Wakanda at the end of the movie, and that was really a great message of Blackness is universal, and if there are struggles going on in other places in the world of Blackness, then we should all reach out to that and be conscious of that, especially because there's historical content where whiteness and colonialism has often reached out to other whiteness and colonialism to help oppress other Black people. So that's why they're so threatened by this idea of Black nationalism, because that's exactly what they don't want to happen, because they don't want Black people to figure out what they've been doing to them in other places in the world. So I think that's really interesting. Another thing that I think that she would have really liked about the Black Panther movie is the fact that it is extremely feminist. Um, where Lorraine Hansberry was extremely inspired by um, Simone de Beauvoir's book, The Second Sex, and it really made her start thinking about um, gender and how it's constructed. She was also identified as a lesbian, so made her think about queer theory. And there isn't any queer theory in the Black Panther movie, but I don't feel like the doors are closed to that. I think it's like more like not it's not the point of the movie right now, but it definitely is a strongly feminist movie with like very strong like Black female characters, which I think that she would have really enjoyed. Um, and she also like had this idea of being aware socially. She was like very interested in peace, and I think this ties in well with the Black Panther movie as well, where it's like a conversation about like what is peace and who deserves peace. Where there's this idea of like with Wakanda, where like they're when we want to keep our peace because it's safer for us to be um, hidden and isolated. But the important thing that they come out of this with, and I think Rowan really would have loved, is the idea that like our peace is at the price of other people suffering. And because of that, we need to open our borders. We need to reach out to other Blackness, and we need to recognize that. And I think that she really would have loved that aspect of like this ability, this power of Blackness to do different from colonialism, because she has this one of the articles, it talks about how someone asked her if she thinks Black people are better than white people, and she said yes, because Black people never dropped a bomb on anyone. So she's like talking about Hiroshima and stuff like that in World War II. So I think that it's really great when the Black Panther movie, where instead of following colonialist or traditionally white ideas of if you're going to kill me, I'll kill you, instead what they do is they open up their borders to technology. They don't follow that same path. They break the cycle. So also I think she really would have loved the idea that like Blackness has this ability to break this cycle of oppression that whiteness hasn't been able to break so far. Thank you.